Today on the show, I want to talk to you guys about a game I never thought I'd get to play. The game is called Harmful Park, and it's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up on the PlayStation. The reason I thought I'd never get to play Harmful Park is because it's a crazy rare Japanese-exclusive game, and therefore expensive. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that it's one of the most expensive games on the PlayStation. But a friend of mine got his hands on a copy, and he was nice enough to let me play it for this review, so let's take a look. Now, I said before that the game is a shoot-'em-up, but really, it's from a more specific category called cute-'em-ups. Similar to games like Parodius and Twinbee, Harmful Park is sort of a lighthearted and silly take on the side-scrolling shooter. But don't let that cutesy look fool you. Under the game's saccharine exterior is an all-out monster of a game. In general, I'd say shooters are known for being hard, and I must admit that I'm not very good at them. But Harmful Park is deceptively hard since it looks like a shooter for kids, but it's actually a fully fleshed out and difficult shooter. Luckily, Harmful Park does offer an easy mode for noobs like me, but each level you go up from easy makes the game quite a bit harder, and it will likely challenge even the most hardcore shooter fans. But what really sets this game apart from other shooters are its strange and unique weapons. There are 4 weapons available to you, and you start with all of them right away. Each one can be leveled up 3 times by collecting power-ups in the stages. The power-ups automatically upgrade whatever gun you're using at the time, so switching to the correct one before collecting them can be critical. The 4 main weapons you get are a potato gun that works like a regular bullet in most shooters, jelly beans which home in on targets and kill them, ice cream cones which work sort of like lasers in other shooters, and last but not least, pie throwing. Each pie moves slowly, but it has some splash damage as it hits the target, so it can potentially take out larger groups. The weapons are all fun to use, and I found myself gravitating towards the ice cream cones and the jelly beans because they made for a good combo of strong for bosses and stuff, but also gave me some crowd control. The game also includes another shooter staple in the form of special moves, but unlike most shooters that just make these pickups a screen-clearing bomb or something like that, Harmful Park makes it so that the special effects are determined by which weapon you're using. Each has its own pluses and minuses, and using these at the right time is key to staying alive, so they are definitely worth experimenting with to see which ones fit your playstyle. Okay, so with the specifics of how the game plays out of the way, I want to talk about the game's look and feel. For me, the game is really like nothing else I've played. It has amazingly detailed 2D sprites and silky smooth scrolling that I hope is translated well in this video once it's been compressed and everything. The music, however, was sort of a mixed bag for me. Some levels had very loud and sort of repetitive sounding music that I didn't really care for, but other levels had really great and memorable tunes that reminded me a lot of the SNES's heyday, so it's sort of a toss-up in the music department. The level design, on the other hand, is excellent. Every level is just bursting with personality, and you can really tell that this game was made by people that love 2D shoot-'em-ups. The bosses are very strange, but they're also one of the main reasons I kept playing the game. I just wanted to get to each one to see what they were. For example, one boss is an inflatable dinosaur, while another is a schoolgirl's body from the shoulders down, and then they top all of that with a Frankenstein robot giving you the finger while shooting a laser out of it. It's wacky and strange, but it also keeps you coming back to see what they've got in store for you next. All that said, this game is relatively short if you're just in it to reach the end of the game. There are a total of 6 stages in all, and each one is pretty long, but I'd say that the total clear time for this game has to be somewhere around 1 to 2 hours. But really, almost all shooters are like this, and things like high scores and that sort of stuff should keep you coming back. And I'm glad to report that this game delivers on that front in spades. Not only does Harmful Park have a deep and fun scoring system, but it also has a special score attack mode, which takes place in its own separate stage and racks up the difficulty to keep you playing for hours. The last thing that I want to mention is that since this game is in Japanese, I really have no idea what's going on in the story. From what I can tell from the intro, some guy has taken over a theme park or something and tried to use it for evil. Yeah, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Between each stage, there are little animated sequences that help flesh out the story, but since they're totally in Japanese and don't seem to make much sense, I could never really get anything from them. However, I do think it's pretty safe to say that shooters don't really rest on their narrative, so I enjoyed the game quite a bit despite missing its story almost completely. In the end, I think Harmful Park is probably the best shooter I've ever played. Now, to be fair, I don't play all that many of them, but there is something about this game that's really fun even if you're not a big shooter fan, and it's hard to put my finger on what that X factor is. I mean, it controls like all good shooters do, the gameplay in general is similar too, but there's just something about the setting and the art that set this game apart for me. I had a really great time playing it, and I would love to recommend it to all of you, but with its $100+ price tag and super limited availability, that's kinda hard for me to do. That said, if you are lucky enough to find it somewhere for a decent price, I highly suggest that you give it a shot. That's all I've got for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.